Week 6, everyone. It's good to be a football fan. It's also good to get all the operational stuff set up before you get going and go live. Bam. 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 Where is it? Come on. Something went wrong there. Appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. Thank you so much for joining. Again, we do this Monday through Friday, and the deal is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 10 a.m. Eastern time with you in the morning. And then, of course, we've got football on Thursday and Friday. Therefore, we show up after the ball games on Thursday and Friday. So we go post-game Thursday and Friday. So the deal there is that if we deem those to be really good games, i.e. last Friday night, Miami, Virginia Tech, pretty good ball game, pretty important ball game. Washington, Rutgers, same thing in the Big Ten. Rutgers now 4-0. How about that? So we went live after the games. If they're dud games or they turn into dud games, then we'll be here earlier on Thursday and Friday night. But again, the College Football Show, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 10 a.m. Eastern time, and Thursday and Friday after the games. We go live with all of you after football, most of the football. We don't want to stay up until 2, 3 o'clock. Well, we do stay up until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning at the end of the show, but don't want to start a show when Hawaii gets done on Saturday night. So we go live after the primetime games on Saturday, back with you live on Sunday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So we are live each and every day here at the Voice of College Football, and this is just the main channel. I personally host 17 shows every week, and that's not the tip of the iceberg, or maybe it is the tip of the iceberg. So we've got shows all over the place. We're going to get to our first call because you guys take precedence with your calls. We'll be here for an hour. If you would like us to continue the show, hey, we would love to be here for 2, 3, 4 hours, whatever the case might be. We will take your calls for that long if you contribute to the show. And so if we get the support, we will be here for longer than that. Otherwise, you can catch me tomorrow. Also, just to update you on today's schedule for Tuesday, and this is getting tougher and tougher for me to track, and I own the network. So it's got to be difficult for you. So check out the community post that we send out every either late night or first thing in the morning every day that shows you all the shows on the Voice of College Football Network each and every day. And while we're talking about that, let's just go ahead and do it. Then we'll get to our first call, even though there are quite a few news items that we would like to get to. We will definitely get to our caller first and foremost. So this right here is the community page. And everybody's YouTube tends to show up a little bit differently. So I don't know what your YouTube looks like on your phone or whatever device you use, but there should be a community tab, or it may say posts. For some reason, I go to certain channels on our network and it says posts, and on other channels it says community posts or community. So YouTube's got some issues there. But regardless, they run the whole deal, and without them, we don't have a show. So we're by and large grateful for YouTube. All right. I would have to buy a lot of music if it was not for YouTube. So, for example, today we posted just minutes ago, do you enjoy or care about power rankings? Would love to hear from you on that. Why? Because I can produce power rankings. Sometimes I'll produce a power rankings like we did with the Big Ten last week, and I think we get about 7,000 views, and other times not so many, sometimes more than that. So we would appreciate your feedback on whether I should produce power rankings. And certainly I last week did it differently in that I produced basically 2 rankings for you. So when it says there depends on the method, well, I gave you 2 methods. I gave you a resume method, and I gave you a flat out, this is my evaluation of the teams. So Ohio State's the best team in the Big Ten in my evaluation, although they have not proven that because they have played a lousy schedule. So that's an example right there. I've got Ohio State 7th, 8th, something like that in terms of resume. because they've blasted 4 opponents, but none of them really that good. All right, this is what I'm talking about here. So please provide your input, because this is all for you. We do all of this for you, produce all this content, all the live streams, all of it is for you. So we would like to know what you want to see. Tuesday at the Voice of College Football. See, this is what we post each and every day on the community tab. We've got this show. We've got Iowa Hawkeyes live at 5:30 Eastern with Corey Bratta. Nebraska with Justin Adams, 7 p.m. Eastern time. We've got a new Indiana show. This is just the second week. And we are building an Indiana channel, so check it out. We've got about 20 or 25 subscribers already over there, so we appreciate that. But check out the Indiana channel, and Jeffrey Johnson at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Clint Foster in the Biggest 12. That's on the Big 12 channel at 7:30. SEC Live with Matthew and Tyler at 8 p.m. Eastern time. You got 2 screens going at 8 p.m. because TJ and John have the Michigan Live show at 8 p.m. Eastern time, of course, on the Wolverines channel. And then I'm back at 10 p.m. Eastern time with Tim and with Matt on Trojan Conquest Live. All right, now let's get to the calls. We've got Caden the Band on the line. Caden, how you doing?
Good morning, Mark. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you?
First of all, I'd like to point out your power ranking of Ohio State. I feel that's kind of slacking a little bit, in my opinion.
Slacking. Do you understand it? First of all, do
meaning
you understand?
In the power ranking, Ohio State should be a little higher because Georgia lost.
How can they be any? What? Hang on just a second. I'll let you speak as much as you'd like. I don't really believe that you understand what we're doing or what you're referring to. Are you talking about my top 25? You must be talking about my top 25.
You know how you said about
Yes, it's not a power ranking. But anyway, we did Big Ten power rankings last week, and I had Ohio State number 1. So I don't know how they could be any higher. But anyway, the top 25. Okay, shoot.
And then second of all, as far as you talking about our schedule goes, as I stated previously before, I don't know why the Big Ten doesn't want to stick anybody in the first couple weeks of our schedule that is at least decent. That's non like Division II power conference opponents. Because clearly, I don't know why the Big Ten doesn't want to do that. Because it seems like they're afraid of our defense.
Okay, sir.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, you need to understand quite a few things about college football. So first of all, just to clarify, I have Ohio State ranked as the number 1 team in the Big Ten in my power rankings. In the top 25 that I post every week, those rankings are determined based on resume. And Ohio State's resume right now is lacking much. They have played certainly through the first 3 weeks of the season. Now that they played Michigan State, obviously that's a more decent opponent, but they had basically the worst power conference schedule in the country through the first 3 weeks. So they had little to evaluate against anybody with a pulse. That's why a resume ranking would suffer. It's a resume ranking. So my top 25 is based on your resume, not based on how good I think you are. I don't think Ohio State's like the 20th best team in the country. I think they're maybe the best team in the country. Probably, definitely in the top 3 or 4. So that's what that ranking is, just to explain. And I understand that's confusing for people. So I'm not in any way degrading you. Just that's how I approach those top 25 rankings. It's a resume ranking. Okay. To your comment about scheduling, sir, Ohio State and the individual schools schedule their own non-conference games. So the Big Ten has nothing to do with that. So Ohio State decided to play those teams. Now, what happened this year was Ohio State was scheduled to play Washington. So they were supposed to play a decent team outside the conference. And obviously, Washington's been an exceptional team the 2 previous years, going to the national championship game and 11-2 the season before. So that's who Ohio State was supposed to play non-conference this year, but Washington, of course, joined the Big Ten, and so it wiped out that game. Ohio State chose not to play that game for good reason. I completely understand their reasoning. This team's joining the conference, so why would we play them outside the conference and go travel out to Seattle? It made no sense. So they had to drop that game, and they had nobody capable to fill that spot. That's why Ohio State's playing a weak non-conference schedule this year. But the Big Ten doesn't schedule Ohio State's non-conference games.
Ugh. I was wondering when you were going to get done with all that boring crap.
The boring crap is necessary to educate people like yourself, who is blaming the Big Ten for Ohio State's non-conference schedule. This guy is called like 4 days in a row, and I called him a moron the first time he came on, and I was not aware of how accurate I was. So that obviously just displayed it right there. All right. Let's get something clear. If you don't know anything about football, that's fine. That is perfectly fine. I tune into all sorts of videos and shows to learn because I don't know. I don't know what's going on in the Middle East. So I would like to understand it better. So I would not call a show and rant and rave like I know what's going on and how to solve it. So there's no problem with you not understanding, but don't call and make accusations about certain things going on in college football if you have no clue as to why it occurs. So let's make something very clear. We'll get our schedule down, but check out the schedule right there. So we post that each and every morning or late night so you can know where to find us. So here's the deal. I love this comment. The Big Ten schedules easy teams for Ohio State because they're afraid of Ohio State showing what a great defense they have. Yes, the Big Ten is certainly has those kind of motivations when they make a schedule. Wow. Okay. I at that point don't even think that type of person really understands just business and how industry and businesses and organizations operate, let alone college football. It has nothing to do to a certain extent with college football at that point. But we do appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. Thank you so much for stopping by. We are here at 10 a.m. Eastern Time each and every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. We go post game on Thursday and Friday. Tukey G, good to see you. Thank you for that. Cliff, good to see you. You can catch Cliff and Mac and their segments on the Michigan Channel every week on the Michigan Channel with Cliff and with Mac. Daniel, shouldn't margin of victory and quality of performance be a part of the resume? Everyone just looks at who you played. Well, it depends on whose rankings they are. My rankings, yes, absolutely. We look at that. That is one of the three tenets of our rankings. Number one, wins and losses. Number two, opponents. How good are the teams you played? Number three, your performance. Michigan beat Minnesota 27-24. They stopped an onside kick, or the officials did. But anyway, it was a close game, closer than it should have been. So that win by Michigan and that loss by Minnesota, if they were anywhere close to being considered for a top 25, is weighted in my rankings based on the performance on the field. Had Michigan blown out Minnesota 49-0, that performance for me is weighted much differently. So yes, Daniel, we weight the performances. I don't know if others do. That is something that cannot be answered if you look at the AP or the coaches' rankings. everybody is voting differently. Everybody has a different set of criteria. Absolutely. Everybody is completely different. I do know this. Nobody approaches rankings like we do when looking at individual AP or coaches' votes in those two rankings, because otherwise they would rank the teams appropriately based on their resumes. What they do is they take their preseason rankings and then they just kind of adjust to each week. Ki Hilani, been watching for a long time. We appreciate you being here and commenting. The branding for these shows needs some help. Well, we are all for your suggestions. So, I thought you were talking about our team channels. You must be talking about the one here. Cliff, Mark coming hard with the trash talk. It's funny because I'm considered, I think, a nice guy. I don't know that I really care if I'm considered a nice guy. I think there are more important values and characteristics to have, like integrity and honesty and those things. But being nice is certainly a good quality, unless you're just a lying son of a gun. Then you can be. Some of the nicest people in the world are not good people. They are not like honest people with character and integrity. They're just nice to people because they want something. So anyway, but I get it, and I appreciate that. I think it's a compliment. A lot of people say I'm a nice guy. I don't think they listen too intently, because certainly I call out people that, again, anybody who would ever call up, and if they honestly don't understand football or the organization of football, I am not going to blast them in any way. Like I just said a few minutes ago, I watch all sorts of podcasts, listen to podcasts of on topics that I don't understand, or I don't have maybe I understand them once I hear the information, but I don't know that topic well enough. So I'm there to learn. Now, I don't call into shows, but if I did, then I would expect that host to be understanding of my level of knowledge. So I don't have any issue with people not understanding football, because, hey, we're just here to have fun and discuss and debate. And I do like to have higher level conversations with people. But if you don't understand football, that's not a big deal. There are more important things in life that I hope you do understand, but don't come on here and act like you know what's going on and be arrogant about it. So that's a bit annoying. I'm interested to read this. We're getting off topic, of course. We want to focus on week 6, and we will get to that. And there's a number of news items as well, but this is for my own benefit here. Kealani, this is the college football show, which is different than Josh Pate's college football show and the Barstool college football show and the number one college football show, RJ Young's channel. Okay, maybe the next comment will clarify that. Don't come at the college football show with that thinking. Leave it for Josh Pate's college football show or the number one college football show. I don't understand what that means, but I appreciate your thought, although I apologize, I don't really understand it. So anyway, my thought about naming this show is that this show is different than everybody else's show, of course, because I'm different. I approach it much differently than other people do. So we also thought that this would be the most important college football show for you to watch. So we named it The College Football Show. There you go. That all came from me. I'm the only one who named it. I had no help in the process. Maybe it's a bad name, but it's the name, The College Football Show. Everybody named. So we had a poll. We took suggestions, I should say. We took recommendations from all of you, which the person who won our naming contest, I still have not been able to track down that person. So if you named the winner that I announced on here about 25 times, please contact me at MarkRogersTV at Gmail. We'll get you some free gear, the item of your choice. Anyway. Oh, so the first thought in the process was to name it something that people are going to search and find. So we would have college football in the name of the show. So that was my first criteria. It has to be searchable. People will need to find it. The second would be just flat out, we want to give some type of aura or presence or indicate what this show is all about, which it's just flat out about college football. And again, it may not be the most popular. Don't really care about that in certain senses. In some I do. In some ways I don't. But we're going to stay true to what we do. And it's the college football show. So it's that was the best name I could come up with. We were thrown about 50 different names, and this is the one I liked the most. Now, I was a bit biased because it's the one that I thought of. All right. Okay, we've got another caller coming in. We've got our buddy Chris stopping by today. Chris, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Mark?
I am doing just fine. How are you?
Fine. Oh, I caught the last part of your last show, I think, and I didn't know you'd written a book about the championships. How is a person supposed, or how would a person go about getting that? Do you have a?
Well, I appreciate you asking. So, there's a publisher that I don't want to say they're not a full-fledged publisher, so it was kind of self-published, but they kind of hold your hand, give you help. It's a self-publishing school, so that's who I used. And I was going to drop links and tell everyone where to find this, but they are advising me to allow a couple weeks and for a launch team to help me kind of market the book. But on October 29th, it will be available on Amazon, and I will be dropping the links all over the place for people to get it. So the explanation of the book, Chris, is, and I think that this would be something that whether you agree with me or not is not important. I think you would find it interesting.
Well,
So I chose.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I chose the decade of the 1990s because I believe it to be the most transformative period in determining a champion of college football, because there were more changes during that decade, as you well know. We started the decade with just strictly the AP and the coaches poll determining the national champion. And then there was a bowl coalition that was implemented that didn't change the process of determining the champion, but it changed the matchup structure. So it was more readily frequent that the 1 versus 2 matchup was put together each year. Although the Rose Bowl did not participate in that, it made it more likely. So that improved the process, in my opinion. And then, as you well know, in 1997, we went to the BCS, 1998 went to the BCS. And so what I did here is I went through each season and just kind of explained how the season progressed, which results were important, who won the big games and why, and laid out the scenarios. I list like the preseason AP and coaches rankings. And then I take you through the season. I go through a section with the postseason assignments and who played in the postseason in the games that had any impact on the national championship. And then I lay out the final AP and coaches rankings. And then I have a section on who I believe was left out or who just had a strong season that had some argument to be considered for the number 1 spot that was left out. And then I have a section on whether the vote was valid or credible. And then I take, for example, in 1990, there were no conference championship games, as you well know. And I list who would have played in conference championship games based on the standings in the conference. So, for example, in 1990, you would have had Georgia Tech, Virginia in the ACC championship game. The Big Eight would have been Colorado and Nebraska. The Big Ten, wow, there was a log jam. So it would have depended on tiebreakers and on conference records, but Iowa, Michigan, Michigan State, Illinois. You had Pac-10, Washington, USC, the SEC, Florida, Tennessee, and the Southwest Conference, Texas, and Houston, just to give people an idea of who would have played in conference championship games if they did exist in 1990. And then I have a section on who would have played in conference championship games under the current conference alignment
Yeah.
with those same results, which is a bit tricky because the
No.
schedules would have been different. And then I've got a section on what this particular season, let's take 1990, would have looked like with the BCS involved and that outcome. And then I take the same season in 1990 and I put it into the 4-team college football playoff model. And then I put it into the 12-team model. And then I put it into the 14-team model to show what the seedings would have looked like. And then I wrap it all up with just my thoughts on what the championship game or the championship bowl games meant to those particular programs, and how they either elevated from there, what their trajectory was, or if that was a pinnacle of the program and they never recovered, those sorts of things.
Are you? Because I haven't had a chance to look at your book, so I don't really know where to operate from. But for those examples, like you said that you're going to use a BCS protocol, I guess, in one of the seasons, 1990, I think.
So I do that for every season.
Well, I understand, but with that format, or I guess, or with that, or any of those, are you taking it all the way to the? Are you making a prediction, I guess, about which team might have beaten the other team, or do you just kind of leave it at the preliminary stage, I guess?
I do
Or,
make a projection in here. I don't think that that's a big emphasis of the book. It's not about what I think would have happened. I don't
well, I don't
put an
know. You
emphasis,
did
but
though for
I
yeah,
did put a projection in here. Yes.
keep bringing it up, but for 1984, and it's not. I don't think it's an unfair thing to bring up because you said for your projection, you said it was Florida, right? I think isn't that kind of your unless you changed your opinion. Can you kind of say that that's who you thought the champion was for the season?
Well, that's not who I thought the champion was. That's who I believe would have won a championship game. But I'm not taking a championship away from BYU.
No, I understand, Mark. I just
Okay.
trying to make sense of what you said in your dissection, I guess, of the season. If I'm not mistaken, I think you said that they would have beaten BYU, which I can't say they wouldn't have. I don't know.
Well, I don't know.
Well, I don't know
But
either.
people were asking me. I produced a few of those videos and I didn't make any projections on who I think would have won those games. And then people asked me to start doing that. So
I
I
don't have
did.
an objection to it. I just curious how you get those results is all. Just curious. I don't have an objection to you having
Just,
an opinion. That's fine.
yeah, that's all it is, an opinion. In no
Well,
way would I ever make the claim so and so would have beaten so and so for sure.
well,
I
they
would
might have.
never make that claim.
I mean, I'm not going to say you're wrong. I mean, it's very possible that they might have won. I just,
Yeah, we have no idea of knowing.
but
So I,
the only issue I have with it is it's like I don't think it's really necessary to take it to that extent because Florida was given a title. In fact, if I remember correctly, because I've kind of looked into it, I think they actually received half of the what do you call them? Like in the BCS, they use selectors. I think Florida actually won half of them. I mean, they didn't, and that was one of the cases, I guess, people that want Florida to have a championship. Um, it kind of boiled down to the fact I think they were on probation, is what it was, and I don't know if that made them ineligible or just unavailable. Maybe be a better way to put it, but I'm not so sure that they didn't receive almost equal billing. It's just that I guess when it comes down to making what the final decision, I think it has to, maybe if it went to, I'm not going to say it would have to, but maybe if it went to court, I don't know why it would have to, but maybe at that point, then it becomes, well, do we really want a team that's on probation as the, But that's not the only season that ever happened. I don't think. I think there was it '93 where Auburn I think might have been on probation.
Sure.
And so I think it's very possible to. And I'm not saying that's why I don't want to take. I don't want you to take a title from BYU, but I don't want me to take a title from Florida because I don't think I'm. Of course, I'm not qualified to do it anyway. But I'm not going to take a title that they won away from them. I think that's wrong. But I think I already told you, in my opinion, it's just my opinion. BYU didn't win a title. They, in my opinion, this is based on what I know, which isn't a lot. But one of your criticisms, and I'm not going to say it wasn't fair, but they played Michigan, and I know Michigan didn't have the best record. They were in my opinion, they were about as good as Northwestern relative to the type of season they had. Northwestern last season. So the question might become, and I also looked into where Florida State ended up after they lost to Georgia, and it wasn't too far from where BYU finished. So the question might become as simple as, well, if Florida State had played Northwestern instead of Georgia and beaten them by 7 like BYU did, would that be enough to take a title away? And that's like one of those things where a person has to kind of think about it, I guess. And why would they be playing Northwestern? I don't know. But that's the only thing I can use as far as defense, I guess, of BYU is they really didn't have a whole lot of say in over who they played. I don't know what the other options might have been. Maybe you can help me figure it out, but I think they played the best team they could in that situation, and so regardless of who it might have been, if it makes people upset that they played a 6-5 team, I mean, I don't know who else would have. They would have had to have somebody else accept the invitation, and as far as I know, nobody else wanted to. So that's the other side of it, though. Besides it just being a 6-5 Michigan team, I don't know if you feel the same way I do about it. Maybe you don't.
Yeah, from my understanding, as we've discussed in the past, BYU had little influence over who they played. So the Holiday Bowl found the most attractive matchup for them that they could find, and they should have been playing someone else, but that wasn't their fault.
Well, I don't know who they could have played. That's the other thing. It's like the only other team I saw that, as far as I could tell anyway, it looked like Illinois might have been available. But, if you get down to brass tacks or whatever, Michigan beat Illinois. So I'm not sure they had a better record. I think they were instead of 6-5, they were 7-4. But so there's, maybe a better selection or whatever. But, I'm not sure that would have made it tougher for BYU to play Illinois. That's the only team I really saw that looked or Rutgers. Rutgers had a good team that year too, I guess. So there may have been 2 other choices that they might have had available to them.
Well, as you well know, at that point, the entire bowl season was more about making money, TV ratings, and drawing fans to the games than it was about determining the best matchups in terms of football.
Right. Well, I mean, might have been the only one I could tell. I mean, I could be completely wrong. Or I guess maybe a third possibility, which I've already kind of told you I thought was maybe in the cards but didn't happen, would have been maybe with Iowa. That's probably the best team they could have played. I don't know if Iowa was available, or I don't know what the situation might have been in that situation, but
so based on what you just told us, and it seems to be very fair, taking this past season as an example,
yeah,
if Michigan would have shown up at the championship game and instead of playing Washington, Northwestern would have shown up as a 7-5 football team.
Who'd they play?
You said Northwestern.
Well, no, I said Northwestern was the team that they were probably a better team than Michigan. I'm just saying they had a similar resume, They had a better record, so I mean they were probably a better team.
We're probably confusing a lot of people out there crossing 1984 with 2024. But just to make the point, BYU won a national championship. For anybody watching that's not aware, BYU was awarded the national championship in 1984, and they played a 6-5 Michigan team in the Holiday Bowl to win that national championship. Exactly. Ironically, it was the worst Michigan team in Bo Schembechler's 21-year tenure.
Okay.
And it's not even that close. He never had a 6-loss team. He never had a 5-loss team. He had very few 4-loss teams I'm trying to think when he even had a 4-loss team. I think he had 1, maybe 2. He lived in the top 10. So this was the worst Michigan team. So again, that's not BYU's fault, but it's just not a matchup that should be played to determine who wins a national championship.
No,
Look at
well, I have one objection to that, and I think I've already.
Okay.
Nobody's ever, and I'm not trying to push it anything. People can say it's baloney or whatever, malarkey, whatever they want to say about it. As far as I can tell, and it's not a direct comparison, and it's might not even be applicable to this situation. And I've already brought it up once before. When North Carolina played Kansas in the NCAA tournament, they were an 8 seed to a 64-team tournament.
Oh, Lord.
Well, they were. They were.
This has nothing to do with. It's a
Just
completely
let me
different
have my
sport with a different structure.
I understand that, but just let me
Yes,
have
low seeds have won the NCAA basketball championship, but do you know what happened for them to do so? They had to win game after game after game after game.
well,
They weren't just plucked out of thin air and thrown in the national championship game.
Well, I understand that. Can I finish my point?
Sure.
I mean, it's a different season, different team, different, maybe not even the same. What I don't know what you want to say about it. Different quarterback, different. Michigan began 1985 5-0 against, in my opinion, tournament caliber teams. People can go and look and see if they think I'm right or wrong about it. I don't really care, but anyway, they won 5 straight and then they lost to Iowa. Well, what it kind of shows, Mark, is, in my opinion, it kind of proves the point that I was trying to make, that from the 1984 season, retroactively, I guess, and retroactively isn't always fair, but it advances BYU, is what I think it does, from just being another team with a decent resume to potentially being a national champion, is the way I see it. But if you don't want to use that, you don't have to. But then the final point I was trying to make, and you wouldn't let me do it the last time, I don't think, they actually did play Iowa. It took a long time for them to happen, and they tied them. I don't know
They
what else.
did not play Iowa. Chris, this is the final time I'm ever going to make this statement. Whether you agree with it or not, I'm guessing that 99.9% of the people watching and people that don't watch would agree that you cannot use results from other seasons to determine a champion in this particular season.
Well, it's like unfinished business. It's like we still need to beat
No, it's
Iowa.
not unfinished business. The season's over.
And even
When
now, it's
when
still
the final game is played, that particular season is over. You cannot take a result 7 years later and apply it to a season. Those
wasn't the
guys are
whole.
old men by then. They're 30 years old. They're gone. They've played in the NFL. They've started their accounting job. They're completely different coaches, players. All that's the same are the colors and the name on the jersey if it's the team name.
Well, at any rate, they play, whether it means anything or not. They played Iowa, because I don't want to like argue with you about it. Whether it means anything or not, they played Iowa in 1991 and tied them in
Yeah,
the Hall.
we understand that. You've told us that like 100 times, and it means absolutely nothing.
I don't see how it can
Like,
mean
it's
nothing.
absurd. It is see, Chris, this is when I start to get pissed off, is because we've reached a level of absurdity, and we've reached a level that you're just completely wasting my
Just listen to
time,
me.
your time,
No,
talking about results in 1991 that affect 1984. That is just,
well,
it's
but
so incredibly insane. It's not worth my brain cells to try to process it or respond to it.
well, I was rated number 7. I mean, I don't know if that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, but they were rated number 7.
As Mike is pointing out right here, 1991, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. Yes, there is, we have somebody on the line who is trying to justify a 1984 championship with results from 1991. It's just,
Well, I have one last point. That's
I-
again.
I shouldn't even have to respond to that.
Don't. It's fine. You don't have to. The other point was compared to Washington, and you can look into it too, just from a historical perspective, which in my opinion matters. But if it doesn't matter to you, that's fine. Iowa and Washington are tied at 4 wins apiece. So, kind of what I think it did when they finally did get to play Iowa was it kind of showed that BYU was at least capable of playing Washington.
Yeah, that had no consequence for 1984.
Well,
all right, Chris, we appreciate you being here.
So you said Amazon for your book? Is that where I get it?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thanks, Mark.
I'll have more details about it in a few weeks, and I appreciate it, but I am never going to be able to convince you that games from other seasons should not be
Well, no,
evaluated to
listen,
determine a champion of a different season.
direct comparison with A team B. I don't know how you can say it doesn't matter, but if you don't want to, team
They
A,
are
team B.
different players and different coaches. They are not the same teams.
Well, what about Michigan playing USC? That none of those games count. Only one game counts is this year, I guess. That's the only game that matters.
What are you talking about?
The only game that ever mattered between Michigan and USC is this year's game because all the other games don't have any bearing on this season. So.
Pertaining to this season's championship, yes.
No. The only game that ever mattered is the one that they played this year. The other games that they played that were played in the Rose Bowl, they don't have any bearing on anything
Well,
other than just.
No, they don't have anything bearing. They don't bear on this season.
Well, I have anything to say about this season. The only game that matters is this year, so that's the only game that matters is the game that was played this year. None of the other games they played in the series matter. So that's what you're telling me, I guess.
That's what I am telling you.
No, that's like, okay. Well, that's fine. That's what your position is. It's nothing wrong. I don't agree with it, but that's fine.
Okay.
That's the only game that matters.
You don't have to agree with it. It's the only rational conclusion.
Well, I kind of look at it differently. I think every game they played matters.
And we know that you look at it differently.
No, the fact
Thanks,
Colorado
Chris. Appreciate you being here.
The fact Colorado hasn't beaten USC matters too.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
This might have broken me right here. Just it is impossible to let's be kind, Mark. Let's see, how do we phrase this? Because I cannot get between the ears of some people to understand what's going on or not going on between their ears, then I just need to give up trying to convince people of rationale. Rationale that is so basic, it shouldn't even be explained, need to be explained by anybody. So based on Chris's thought process, think about this. When Michigan advanced to the national championship game against Washington last year, they didn't even need to play the game. You know why? They played in 3 Rose Bowls before. So you would just take the results of those 3 games. I guess Washington won 2 of 3. So you would just say Washington won the national championship because they beat Michigan 2 out of 3 Rose Bowls in the 1970s, 80s. No, wait a minute. I'm forgetting a Michigan win. Maybe they would have had to play the game because Michigan won 2 Rose Bowls and Washington won 2 Rose Bowls. And those players who are now 50 or 60 years old, their accomplishments and their performance in the game that they played, that result somehow bears evaluation in 2024. Not for 1978, but to determine the 2024 national champion. I could make a case for about 45 different teams being the national champion every year if this was the rationale, if it made any sense. And I, again, can't even believe I'm addressing this. All right, let's talk about 2024, first of all, and let's bring some level of sanity to this conversation. So we've got our buddy Michael here.
Hey, Mark, it's 10:49 in the morning. Is it too early to start drinking?
Well, I don't usually go that route, but if I did, this would be the day.
Yep, I bet. Hey, I know it's Tuesday. I'm just trying to figure out, have you figured out what games is going to be some of the best games this weekend?
Well, we can do that right now. I have the schedule all ready to go, and we will start from the top.
Okay. And while you're looking that up, is Luke Fickell maybe starting to be in trouble there in Madison?
In trouble? No, he's not technically in trouble. Maybe some fans are not happy with him, but those are two different things. Now,
Yeah.
Luke Fickell is nowhere close to being fired, I would not imagine. But this is his second season. Much like Ryan Walters, I would say if he's headed toward a 5 or 6 or 7 win season next year, then that might be the case next year.
Excuse me. Mm-hmm.
It's only his second season. He went 7-6 last year.
Yeah,
which is
and they're
not
what
great.
2? They're what 2 or 3 right now, or are they 3-2?
They are 2-2, correct?
Okay.
They won 2 MAC and FCS games. Then they lost to Alabama and USC. So they're 2-2, and they've got
Okay.
Purdue.
Yeah.
Am I missing somebody?
No, I was
they're
just
2-2. They had a
right.
bye week.
You're right, because they almost lost that game against Western Michigan.
Yes,
Okay.
they almost did.
All right. So as you bring up the schedule.
Yeah, so on Thursday night, depending on what kind of football you like, we've got Texas State at Troy, and we got Sam Houston taking on UTEP, and Texas State's a pretty good team this year.
Mm-hmm.
And then on Friday, we've got Jacksonville State, Kennesaw State. We've got Houston, TCU. We've got Michigan State, Oregon, Syracuse, UNLV. I'm sure that you understand that I will be watching Michigan State, Oregon intently. I do think that Syracuse UNLV matchup is quite intriguing.
Yeah. Hey, is Michigan State in trouble of losing their season? Are they really like towards the bottom of the conference right now?
Well, I think Michigan State's played better than I expected.
Yeah, they got waxed last week.
Well, they got waxed last week, but weren't they supposed to get waxed?
Yeah, some people thought it might have been a little bit better of a game, but I don't know.
Well, this is how I look at it, is that Michigan State has already defeated Maryland. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying Maryland's great, but they already won on the road at Maryland, and that's a game that in recent years they've lost. And then they played this Boston College game on the road, and BC's pretty good, and they took that down to the final possession, and statistically looked like the better team, but lost the game, had too many turnovers. And then they played this Ohio State game in which they got into the red zone 3 or 4 times in the first half and just bumbled away possessions and hung around. And it was a 10-7 game at one point. And then, sure, they got blown out. They're playing a much better team. But I think Michigan State's, I don't want to say much improved, but I think that they're decidedly improved.
Yeah, that UNLV Syracuse game is looking mighty intriguing.
Yeah, I agree. UNLV could go to 3-0 against power conference teams.
Yep. But anyway, I didn't know and stuff like that. I was going to say so. But what do you think is going to happen with that quarterback who's sitting out and stuff like that? Or is there more to we don't know about it?
What's going to happen to him?
Yeah.
Well, I assume he's looking for a different school.
Yeah, but I didn't know if there was like something more into it than what we know right now.
Well, at the time that story broke, I figured, well, either he has been contacted by another school and he knows that he only has 1 more year of eligibility. And their season is obviously going well. So it's not like he thought, okay, we're 1-4, or I guess it would have been 1-3 because he can't play any more than 4 games to redshirt. And this season's going nowhere, and I want to play 1 more season somewhere else. Their season was going great. I can't imagine that he had anticipated his season being any better than it is going right now. But I don't know what the impact is. He's got a year of eligibility that he wanted to protect. So some people have conjectured that he's getting an offer from somebody else and can make more money next season. He knows he's not playing in the NFL. So if you know that you can go somewhere and make $300,000 or $400,000, then maybe that's what his consideration is. I don't know. We will find out. Most likely that the truth comes out at some point.
Okay. Yep. So no, it looks like A&M and Missouri. So I'm trying. Okay, I just try to figure out. Yeah, I get. So the team on the left hand side is the road team. So how do you see Louisville bouncing back against SMU Saturday?
Oh, I think Louisville is a good football team. I think that they will most likely win that game. And but that's another interesting contest. Of course, SMU had no issues with Florida State, and that was their historic first ACC game. I think the best game here with the best talent and the best teams on one field is Missouri at Texas A&M.
Texas A&M. Yeah. Do you think the SMU Louisville will be more like a basketball score?
No, I don't think so. Not
So you don't
necessarily.
think? So you don't think it'll be in the 40s this see, huh?
On each side?
Yeah.
What's the over-under on this game? 57.5. So Louisville is a 7-point favorite. So Vegas is basically telling us that this final score is going to be
28-24 maybe?
Well, that's 52 points. So it's going to be about 31, 32, 25, something like that.
Something like that, yeah. 'Cause I know both teams can put up points and stuff, especially with what SMU's put up, like, 100 points in their last 2 games?
42 on Florida State. I don't remember the previous game.
And I think it was like 65 against TCU.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, TCU 66-42. So yeah, if you go by that score, but I think Louisville's got too much talent on defense to let it get that far out of hand. But yeah, there are going to be points in that game.
Yep, not bad. So I was just saying, so what else is on the agenda there for those two besides those? Who's got Carolina? I can't see because of the beta right there, the $100 overtime.
Pitt and North Carolina.
Okay. So is that pretty much drowned out the early games that might be decent, or is there? I'm sure there'll still be more on there.
We've got Wake and NC State, Navy, Air Force. Huh.
That'll be a good one. Yeah, because I know Navy and the Army still undefeated, but I wonder how Air Force is doing this year.
Air Force is off to a bad start. They're 1-3. And they were 9-4 last year. Yeah. Our buddy Troy Calhoun has had a great tenure at Air Force, but not this year.
Yep. No, not bad.
So that's pretty much the noon window right there.
Yeah. All right, get to the 3:30 games there with Iowa and Ohio State. Is that too many points Ohio State's giving up?
I looked at the lines last night and I saw that it opened at 24, but it was down to 19. So that seems pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
ESPN showing 20.5.
Okay.
And an over-under of 44.5, meaning they think Ohio State's going to win this game. What about 35-11? No, 34, 10, a little less than that. Yeah, like 33-12.
All right. I was just wondering stuff like that. Another thing I'm trying to figure out is how they figure out who wins the Commander-in-Chief's Cup. I'm only trying to figure that out. Who wins it?
If one of the 3 teams sweeps the other 2, then they automatically win it.
Okay.
After that, that's a great question. I don't know if it comes down to if they all split the games 1-1-1-1. I don't know if it comes down to a point differential.
Oh.
That can easily be Googled.
Yeah. All right. So Stanford, I think, how about they ended up losing to Clemson last week?
I like this 3:30 window, by the way.
Yeah, the Stanford.
Those top 3 games, I want to see all 3 of those games.
Iowa,
Ohio State, Auburn, Georgia, Ole Miss, South Carolina.
See how Ole Miss, especially going into Columbia, see if they can bounce back and stuff.
Yeah.
But no,
Virginia Tech going out to Stanford will actually be a pretty competitive game. Let's see what the point spread is on that. Virginia Tech by 8. Okay.
Yep. All right. Just and stuff like that. So
anything else at 3:30? We got a Rutgers in Nebraska at 4.
4 o'clock.
West Virginia, Oklahoma State.
So what's your take about 4 o'clock kickoff compared to the 3:30 kickoffs? I wonder why they did that now. I know it's because of TV, but wonder what made them start doing that though.
Well, it's a good question because obviously, so for example, about 15 years ago, ESPN started kicking off their noon games on ESPN and ESPN2 right at noon,
Yeah.
12:01. I remember I was around for those in the control room, and they started kicking off at 12:01 because it was customary that these noon windows started and they did pregame for 7, 8, 10 minutes, and they wanted to get the jump on people that were just looking for action to start, and they would lock those people in. So yes, you're right. It's about TV. I can't say that I exactly know what the strategy is because obviously people are starting to watch those 3:30 games.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know why they would leave what are going to be mostly competitive games after only a half hour to tune into Fox or FS1 at 4 p.m. Eastern.
True. Yeah, because I
They
think
would
that.
have,
Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm just saying they would have to explain their decision to me. I'm sure they've studied it.
Yeah. 'Cause I think the Rutgers Nebraska game could be a damn good game.
Oh, I do too. I like that game.
Uh-huh.
Nebraska is a 7-point favorite. I think that's a little high.
Yeah.
Uh, for some reason, the ESPN2 game starting at 4 as well. That's doesn't usually happen.
Oklahoma State, West Virginia, I know.
I don't know what's going on there. Huh. The first game, Pitt, North Carolina, starts at noon, so it's not due to that. All right, then in prime time, we've got Clemson and Florida State on ESPN.
That should be like an ESPN game.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. And it's not a great primetime window at this point. We got Tennessee and Arkansas playing on ABC.
Couldn't they find a better game than Tennessee and Arkansas?
You would think. But I don't see it here. Michigan, Washington on NBC, USC, Minnesota on the Big Ten Network, Baylor, Iowa State on Fox. That's the Fox game. Baylor and Iowa State.
Wow.
Okay. I don't know what I'm going to watch out of this mess. I guess I will opt for. I always throw 2 games on.
Michigan, Washington.
Yeah, Michigan, Washington, Tennessee, Arkansas, I guess.
Yeah.
I may watch USC, Minnesota.
Yeah. Is Georgia Tech still around 500? Or are they 3-2 right now?
Georgia Tech has lost to Louisville and Syracuse. They're 3-2.
And what about Duke?
Duke is 5-0.
That might be a good game.
It could be.
But I don't know if you get the ACC network, though.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, that could be a good game. You're right. And Duke could be 6-0.
Mm-hmm.
And then late night, we've got Miami and Cal.
Yeah. Which would be, I don't know what Cal's done this year, except going in beat Auburn.
Yeah, they beat Auburn. They should have beaten Florida State, but their field goal kicker missed 2 kicks.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I'm trying to think what they did last week. I believe they're 3-1. Miami's a 10-point favorite on the road.
Yeah. And then is it Arizona, Texas Tech, the last game of the night?
Yes, it is.
Okay. But I got to ask you this because I cannot remember his name for the life of me. Who is that running back from Boise State?
Ashton Jeanty?
Yes. Is he, okay, it's him, Cam Ward, Jalen Milroe, and right now your top 3 for your Heisman. Not that you really care about it, but if he was just a venture, I guess.
Jalen Milroe, Cam Ward, Ashton Jeanty. That sounds like a good 3. I would give some consideration to Caleb Johnson at Iowa.
Yeah.
Can't think of anyone else off the top of my head that's really tearing it up right this second. Yeah, that's a good 3.
Or for good 4 and stuff like that. All right. Well, I am past your time. Thanks anyway. But no, what do you got to go besides you and Corey getting into it, scuffling later today?
Well, me personally, I've got the Iowa show at 5:30, and I've got the USC show at 10 Eastern. but we also have a slew of other shows that we showed earlier. And now I'm getting 2 calls, and we're going off the air here. We've run
Mark,
out of
I'm
time.
sorry. I'm
No,
sorry.
you're okay, Michael. Not you.
I
we
wish
just need to set these 2 calls.
Yeah, I wish I had the $100 to do this for you. I really do, but I don't right now. Though. All right, Mark. Enjoy it. I'll catch you at 5:30. But take it easy on Corey because he is a fragile person.
We will do our best. Thanks,
All right,
Michael.
take care, Mark. Have a good one.
All right. I guess these are going to be like 30-second calls because I don't want to turn people away. Joey,
actually, I was only coming in to say one thing. I ordered your book last night. Looking forward to getting that in the mail and reading it. Disputed National Champions on Amazon right now. I encourage everybody to go buy that book, and I'm looking forward to reading it. And when somebody you left out, and I'm sorry, but Travis Hunter, anybody that can play 130 plays a game and not miss a beat.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely. He is the Heisman Trophy is supposed to go to the best player in the country. I would vote for him. I think he is the best player in the country.
I do too. I agree. All right, Mark. That's all I wanted to say. I wanted to just come on and tell you I got your book and encourage everybody to buy that.
Yeah, thanks you for
Mark.
your support. I appreciate it. And we will go to Yakov. We always like to hear from Yakov. How you doing, Yakov?
Thank God, doing well, Mark. I know I'm in the last caller here, and I feel like I have to obviously say something about college football, but I will say in my first year of Little League Baseball was in 1981. I was on the Phillies, and I still have baseball cards that I think you could pay. My parents paid money to have baseball cards made up. One was me holding a bat on my shoulder. The other one was just standing there, and it had little blurbs about you. And I said my favorite team was. I said the Phillies. I said my favorite player was Pete Rose. And why not? If I'm going to share a story about my being on a baseball card, perhaps today is the best day to share such a thing.
Yeah, even though this is a college football show, sometimes there are occurrences and events that transcend. And I'm guessing that a lot of people that are watching and will be watching this broadcast of sorts have some level of memory, affection, thoughts, and feelings about Pete Rose. Somebody on Twitter posted something close to what I would express, so I don't want to take it from them, and I don't remember what site it was, but basically you could say all these negative things about Pete Rose, and we could list them out. But I don't know of anyone who loved baseball, played harder than Pete Rose, and there is no one, this is a fact, who has won more games in Major League Baseball than Pete Rose.
Well, I didn't know that second part, but
he is the most winning player of all time. He has won the most games.
Yeah, I think he played from like 61 to like 86 or so, so that obviously helps.
63.
63, okay.
I saw a clip the other day, and this is before he passed away. Ironically, I watched like 3 clips of Pete Rose the day before he passed away, just 2 days ago. And one of them was there was I say a kid, he was probably 20, next to Pete Rose at an autograph show, and he was running through. He was asking Pete Rose if he could name the starting lineup in his first Major League game. And 83-year-old Pete Rose, yes, could name every people that are that dedicated and obsessed, you could say, with their sport. You'll find this with people, certain players and coaches, and you'll name a game from 30 years ago and they'll be able to tell you, yeah, it was 3rd and 4 and we had to do this, or I had a 2-1 count and therefore I was looking for a changeup. All those sorts of things. It's amazing. And yeah, he rattled off the lineup and he said something about every player.
Yeah, Mark, again, no, it's a college football show, but he was, even after he was suspended, he had an amazing baseball mind too. He knew the game as well as anyone did.
Yes.
And that's obviously harkens back to a time I know you were saying where I cared about baseball as much as I did college football or the NFL.
Oh, absolutely.
Obviously, we both have.
I was lured into the other day watching. Now, I didn't sit there and watch the entire game, but I skimmed through and caught certain batters I wanted to see in sequences. YouTube threw me Game 5 of the 1981 division series between the Yankees and the Brewers. So I started watching that. I watched a lot of that, and then that led me to the American League Championship Series, and I started watching some of that. And yeah, I could someday when I'm retired and laying on a beach, I'll be watching old games
Yeah.
constantly.
Well, I hope I can do that too, Mark. Last thing I'll say, Mark, about this, I know what you say football, but my dad, I asked, of course, as soon as I heard the news, I called my father because that's one of the things we like to share is sports memories. And he said, one thing I remember, he said, I remember you were you were, I guess, 1-year-old boy at the time, running around, barely learning to walk. And he said, I was still awake when Carlton Fisk hit that home run in game 6, it was going like that. He said, you believe it, you don't remember it, but you saw that. And you heard me jumping up and down. Not that he's necessarily cheering for Boston, but you heard me jumping up and down. And obviously Pete Rose was in that game. They didn't win, but so yeah, that's another thing I can say, Mark. I don't know if you were the same, but thank you, my father's still alive and well. But that's one. We have many other things that we share in common too. But we love to talk sports, both current, Ohio State, and talk about. Now I'm old enough that I can talk about things that happened over 40 years ago, or into the early 80s or so. But we shared some. He ended up talking his memories of the Reds, and I don't remember on the Reds. I remember on the Phillies, of course. But something we always share. I hope you had the same experience.
Came back to the Reds, of course, as player manager.
Yeah, I remember the second time, but I don't remember the Big Red Machine. I was alive for them, but before I don't really remember much about baseball before maybe 81.
I don't remember the Big Red Machine per se in their prime when it was truly the Big Red Machine. I remember right at the tail end of that.
79, remember they won.
78.
Yeah.
Pete Rose was there through 79, or no, he was with the Phillies in 1979. His last year with the Reds was 1978. And I remember his hit streak, his 44 game hitting streak was a big deal.
Yeah.
In 1978. And, that team still had Joe Morgan, George Foster, Johnny Bench, Davey Concepcion, Ken Griffey Sr., Tom Seaver, and all those guys. So they were still together, but they weren't quite as good. They finished second to the Dodgers 2 straight years, 77, 78. So that was I got the tail end of the Big Red Machine.
Yeah. Okay. I know you were a little boy then, but those were good memories. Yeah.
I remember that stuff as well as I remember last week's college football games. I remember opening the paper every day, both during Pete Rose's hitting streak to see what happened. And that was national news. People don't realize this. I made this statement to my son the other day. Well, my son, he texts me about baseball every day. He doesn't, I don't know, he still keeps track of it. So he texts, and as soon as Pete Rose, I found out that Pete Rose died from my son. He texted me, Pete Rose just died. And he never watched him play. He's 27 years old.
He's been retired for pushing 40 years.
Yeah. My son's 27 and texted me that Pete Rose died. And there was a reason I brought that up. But anyway, we went back and forth about, I've explained this to my son before, because baseball right now, I don't know that anyone, I, in a sense, consider Derek Jeter to be the last really national baseball star.
Yeah.
That everybody knows. Yeah. People don't know baseball players.
No. I heard these guys at the Ohio State podcast talk about it, and they were just going, this was still in the offseason. They said that except for football and basketball, football and NFL, college and NFL, everything else has become local. I mean, people here, I live in the Cleveland area, they know about the Guardians, but no one cares even more about the Boston or the New York. Maybe ESPN has it on, which I don't watch, but if it's not your local team, you don't care.
No, I guess Aaron Judge, Ohtani, and maybe Mike Trout would be the 3 closest. Yeah. But, I tell my son, when I was growing up, baseball players, they were just as big, if not bigger, stars than NFL players. Pete Rose, Johnny Bench, Reggie Jackson.
I used to watch the Baseball Bunch on Sunday mornings.
Yes.
Remember that show?
Oh, yeah.
Tommy Lasorda was the genie in the I love that. They brought on other players. Yeah.
Yeah. Those guys were mammoth stars.
Yeah. I can't imagine that show would work anymore. No kid would want to watch that. I mean, they probably won't even watch it for football because they might like football, but not in that kind of sense to watch some kind of non-game action.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mark, I know you want to go. It's a good way to end there. And looking forward to this week's, looking forward to the Ohio State show tomorrow, and hope I can send in a super chat, not about Pete Rose. Maybe I'll try to say something a little more topical for the Ohio State show.
Yeah, so since they're playing Iowa this week, we're going to put the Iowa show today on the Ohio State channel as well.
You know what time that'll be, Mark?
So we've got our Iowa show at 5:30, and we'll have Pat Murphy from Bucknuts. He's going to be on the Iowa show, so we can break down the game. Pardon me?
And Corey Brada also?
Yes.
Oh, good. I tried to
the three of
call
us.
in there last night. He had the Coach Patterson on, Mark.
Yes, he did.
I wanted to call in, and then just then my internet wasn't cooperating. I didn't want to call in and have it all. It was barely working, so I just let it go. But I watched the show.
I caught some of it myself.
I saw some of your. They put some of your chats on the screen. I saw some of your comments there.
Very good. Yakov, great to see you.
Have a good night, Mark. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye, Mark.
Bye-bye. Always great to hear from Yakov. And truth be known, I would rather talk about games from 40 years ago than talk about the games from last week. And I enjoy college football, of course. I still love it. And I love Saturdays at noon. It's still a magical time to turn on all the games at noon, try to figure out who am I going to watch, and try to keep track of all these games. So the action is still phenomenal. But I got to say, in terms of talking about game, if I could earn a living talking about the NFL, college football, Major League Baseball, those three in particular, in terms of the history, that's what I would do. All right. Appreciate y'all being here at the Voice of College Football. Our next stop, again, is the Iowa Live Show at 5:30 Eastern with Corey Brada. And we'll be back here on Wednesday. We got Bill Bender of Sporting News lined up for Wednesday's show, 10 a.m. Eastern time, and we will see you then.